Welcome. My name is Pat Limbach. I serve as the Vice President for Research here at the University of Cincinnati. I want to thank all of the audience members who are here in person and all of those who are watching via Zoom. It's my pleasure to kick off our latest Flashpoint panel, this one on the United States of Artificial Intelligence. We're doing something special for this particular panel associated with today's celebration of the second one-year anniversary, the second birthday party for Digital Futures. And that is we're having several of our very distinguished faculty in Raj and Kelly, along with alums from UC. Raj and Kelly will moderate the discussion, and our alums are the panelists who will be grilled, just like they were when they were PhD students here. So it's just like the good old days for you all. And we have one special guest who's joining us via video link from the Washington, D.C. So I'm going to turn it over to Kelly to introduce our first panelist and do a little introduction and Q&A.
Hello, a very good afternoon to all of you. It is with immense pleasure that I introduce one of our UC Aerospace alumni, Mr. Chirag Parekh. He's the Deputy Assistant to the President, Executive Secretary, National Space Council. He was appointed by the President as Executive Secretary of the National Space Council in August of 2021. As Executive Secretary, he's responsible for advising the Vice President in her role as Chair of the National Space Council on developing national policies and strategies across the civilian, commercial, and national security sectors. He's also responsible for overseeing the implementation of U.S. space policies and strategies and working across the U.S. government as well as with industry, international, academia partners to meet administration objectives through the space sector. Mr. Parekh joined the administration from Microsoft Azure, where he led the creation of a company-wide business unit known as Azure Space to bring together the power of global cloud capabilities with evolving space sector. Prior to Microsoft, he had a U.S. government career that spanned more than 2 decades. He has served as a senior executive at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA, leading collection and tasking of geospatial intelligence, that GeoEINT sensors, and the analysis of GeoINT data. From 2010 to 2016, he served as Director of Space Policy on the White House National Security Council, overseeing U.S. national security space efforts. He also served as the Deputy National Intelligence Officer for Science and Technology and as an aerospace engineer at the National Air and Science Intelligence Center. He holds a Bachelor's of Science degree from UC Aerospace. And it is with that pleasure that I welcome Mr. Parekh.
Well, thank you very much. I hope you guys can hear me and see me. Is that?
Yes, we can, loud and clear, sir.
Okay,
so
very
let's
good.
start off with a question to you about your journey from being in UC Aerospace, go Bearcats, and till where you are today in your esteemed position.
Yeah, I appreciate it. As you said, you mostly got my career already, but it's an honor to be here. I started as an aerospace engineer. I went to UC because of the co-op program. And I chose not to go to that school in Columbus or in my hometown of Cleveland up at Case Western as well. And it was really because of that co-op program, and it was really giving me that work experience. And every job I've ever had is because of the last experience. And so co-oping at UC, I worked at a software company helping do aerospace CAD CAM modeling. And then from there, I went just an hour north up to Dayton to Wright Pat and at the National Air and Space Intelligence Center, where hopefully some of you know that place, but that's where we actually did reverse engineering. And we used all the different forms of intelligence to be able to figure out how high, how far, how fast, how lethal foreign weapon systems were. The area that I focused on actually was on foreign space and counter space programs. And then from there, I got to go to Washington, D.C., and I got to lead the national space intelligence community there. And then from there, I supported the White House and the National Security Council. And then I got to go become the director on the National Security Council. And then from there, I met, the guy that used to brief the president, President Obama, every single day on all the bad things that are happening around the world. And he brought me over to NGA. And from there, I started learning about collection and AI. And that's how I got to Microsoft. And because of my time prior at the White House and my very long DV or CV. That's when Vice President Harris asked if I would come back to the White House and serve as her executive secretary as the National Space Council. So it's been a great career, and it can all get tracked back to the education and the experiences I had right there in Clifton.
Thank you, Mr. Parikh. I'll ask one more question before I turn it to the crowd. Could you speak about, this is a panel on AI, on the importance of responsible AI when it comes to space AI policy and aerospace in general?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important. AI, has a ton of exciting possibilities, and it's actually incredibly applicable and important for the space sector. For those of you that are tracking what we have on the surface and now in the air of Mars, whether we're talking about the rovers or we're talking about the helicopter, that's because of AI, where you have 7 minutes of time it takes for light and radio waves to travel between here and Mars. You can't have a human in the loop type of things when you're trying to figure out a landing spot, or you're trying to figure out what to see, or if there's a boulder, or if there's a crater along the way. So that's really important. The other element is with respect to space debris. Right now in space, we have over 8,000 active satellites. And while space is large, sometimes it can also seem very small. Those are active satellites. We also have hundreds, if not thousands, of inactive satellites that cannot be maneuvered. We have tens of thousands of pieces of space junk, and we have millions of pieces of space junk that is trackable. We have millions of pieces of space junk that isn't even trackable. Something going 7 kilometers per second to the left and something going 7 kilometers per second to the right is not good in space for space operations, as well as for human spaceflight. And then maybe the last thing, and also if you guys are familiar with the SpaceX Starlink systems as well, there's thousands of those satellites in space, and they get pretty close to other satellites at times. They actually use AI to be able to do autonomous collision avoidance maneuvers, and more of those algorithms are being ingested there along the way. So, and then I was going to say the last thing is my job over at NGA, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. For those of you not aware, that's the intelligence organization that's effectively the eyes of America. You've probably all heard of NSA, which is the ears of our intelligence community. NGA is the eyes. And so more and more imagery is being collected through our intelligence community systems as well as our commercial systems. And so it's really the opportunity to be able to, look for things that maybe the human eye isn't trained to do, or look in areas that we didn't know because we didn't know activity is going on. So there's a lot of different opportunities, and we need to think through how we can best capitalize on those.
Thank you. I'd like the audience to raise their hand, and if they could come up with a question. Okay. I've got an additional question on this time. It is, how do you determine between the different types of AI systems, and what is being done specifically to increase the trust of the public in AI when it comes to space policy?
Yeah, there's the trust of the AI is a very interesting one here in and of itself, because particularly, from a civil perspective, we have organizations like NASA, NOAA, and United States Geological Survey who operate satellites in space. These systems are taking, petabytes of data per day and making climate models, making weather models along the way. And when this information is disseminated to, tactically speaking with respect to hurricanes, or more strategically speaking with respect to, climate change initiatives that need to be done, the information, the input that comes in there is really important because it drives, jobs, it drives lives, it drives billions of dollars of investments along the way. So we really need to make sure that we have trusted models that move, that basically let people know that, yes, this is the type of information that needs to be done or conducted. With respect to the other element that I just briefly highlight is some of the ethical considerations that need to be considered for AI in space, for exploration and the advocacy of responsible AI development. When you think about human spaceflight, for instance, we have the Artemis program that NASA is leading an international consortium to go and return humans to the moon. Is the AI, it's no longer just the same demographic that we did with the Apollo generation, but do we have the life support systems? Do we have the human factor and elements to enable a diversity of people, a diversity of ethnicities to be able to go to the moon? And part of the Artemis program isn't just to plant a flag and win a space race, it's to go to the moon with permanence. And so how do we have the ethical considerations for enabling sustained human spaceflight and presence for the moon, and then ultimately for long duration missions to Mars, of which those missions can take over 500 days. And when you have to communicate over those long distances, you can't do that with a human in the loop. And you'll need to have AI systems that will enable a proper way to be able to conduct operations.
Thank you. I'll give the audience another opportunity. Any questions? Yes, we have a question.
Or we still feed the data in the humans, or how's that going?
Dr. Cohen, you'll have to repeat the question because I can't hear the speaker.
The question is about the training of the AI. How is it done today? Whether could you come here and speak?
Now I'm nervous. So I'm curious as how you guys are training it. Is it hooked up like to the internet, or however, I'm trying to think of the correct words, but is it, what is it? Offline or online? Yeah, offline or online. And is it going to be open source to where the general public will have access to these, databases and stuff and be able to see the results? Or is this all, proprietary for NASA and such?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you for asking it. I think a couple of things. The answer is it depends, right? So first and foremost, we have a lot of different AI models that are being conducted for national security applications. And of course, those would be held in classified channels. With respect to some of our civil data, one of the U.S. policies on civil space data is free and open access to the data. But that translates further to free and open access to data models, training models, and learning applications as well. So, the real challenge right now that I see in the industry, and particularly in civil observations, is there's a lot of data, but then there isn't a lot of data. If you're looking for particularly what's happening off the coast of a particular country, it's really challenging to get all the data sets that you need, particularly when you're only maybe getting one image per day or per week or something like that. And so what's being developed is a lot of synthetic training models using synthetic data to help, development of synthetic data to be able to develop training models. And to the question, that Dr. Cohen asked earlier about whether or not, do we have trust in those data, or is there implicit bias along the way? So with respect to civil space program applications and models, that data is being aggregated, that data is being made accessible. It might not just be open internet, but it does sometimes just require a partnership with NASA or a civil space agency.
Thank you, and an applause for you for the courage of asking the question. Any other questions? Yes, there's a question there. This time we're a little more organized.
Thank you. You highlighted the importance of the core experience between your studies and then also working in the industry. The question I have, those of us who teach students, what do you think are the priorities that a university like Cincinnati should have in developing the curriculum to train the next generation to keep our leadership in AI and the technology side where it is now, because we are in a very competitive global landscape?
Yeah, that's another excellent question. And I think that's one of the really fun things about this job is I get to take my academic background, I get to take my engineering skills and apply them to, you know, some of the most challenging geopolitical issues. AI and space are components of the broader geopolitical picture. We think about oil, we think about energy, we think about resource mining. These are elements and components of that. And they can both be enablers, but they can also be both challenging and competitive elements too. With respect to students and to professors, I would say, you know, the difference between when I graduated UC, as you can hear from the bio a long time ago, and now is the interconnectedness of the world and the access to knowledge and ideas along the way. And I think one of my biggest regrets at UC, particularly for any students that have the opportunity to do this, I did not take advantage of the international co-op program. At the time, it was just Germany and Japan. In the world of AI, in the world of space, it is internationally competitive, but it's also extremely internationally cooperative. And one of the recommendations I would say is that part of the curricula should be to be able to say, how do I reach out? How do I make sure people know what's happening in other countries? What are the challenges and competitions that we're looking at? But also, where can we actually partner across universities and across governments along the way?
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yes, there's a question there, or there's one here. Willem.
Hi, I was just wondering what your thoughts are on the state of like regulation, international regulation, and is there any way to get the nations? I mean, there's going to be more and more nations that are going to be space bound, and the potential for disaster and other things is going to grow very rapidly. So, what is the state right now?
Yeah, if I might veer away from the AI theme, that's an incredibly relevant, timely question right now. Within the United States right now, we have three regimes for regulations: FCC, Federal Communications Commission, for spectrum; NOAA, National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration, to regulate imaging, satellites imaging the Earth; and then the Federal Aviation Administration for launching rockets and payloads into space. And then, you know, as you see with some of the SpaceX missions, and even an interesting other mission right now about the reentry back to Earth as well for commercial systems. But you think about commercial space stations, you think about companies that are building fuel tanks to orbit the Earth to fuel other satellites, or robotic missions. We call it in-space assembly and manufacturing capabilities. You think about commercial missions to the moon, out around the moon and on the surface of the moon. There is no regulatory regime about that. And then particularly space sustainability is becoming a bigger issue with all the debris that's happening in space. So that's the other challenge that we're now addressing, which is you can't just go and leave your junk up in space. You have to have rules on being able to make sure that you leave space, literally speaking, for other countries and other applications. And so you don't just create more and more. So part of the rules and regulations that the United States government is enforcing, as well as we're trying to get other countries around the world to align with us, is that if you're in low Earth orbit, you must be able to remove your debris and junk within a 5 or 25-year timeline. And then if you're in geosynchronous orbit, which is 36,000 kilometers away, it's going to take tens of thousands of years for that to re-enter the Earth. So instead, what they do is they boost that up a few hundred kilometers to what is notoriously known as the graveyard orbit. So then you can actually have room for other satellites and other systems up there. So that is a conversation that's ongoing for all these knowledge space activities, but we all already have some rules in place to be able to have space sustainability.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Parikh, we would like to give you a round of applause and thank you.
thank you very much. And I forgot to say up front, one, congratulations on the anniversary. And two, I'm very sorry. I very much wanted to eat Skyline chili up there in Ludlow today, but my schedule did not permit that to happen. And I look forward to hopefully coming back there sometime soon.
Yes, go Bearcats.
Go Bearcats, beat Oklahoma.
Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. We now, it is with pleasure that I introduce my co-moderator, Professor Raj Bhatnagar, to introduce some of the panelists and then to kick off from there. Raj, round of applause.
Thank you. Applauses for our panelists who have come here from far away. Here, I'll just introduce two of the students ex-students who graduated with their PhDs from our university's computer science program. And now they're all occupying important positions, making important contributions in industry. So one is Divya Sardana, Dr. Divya Sardana. She got her PhD from University of Cincinnati in 2017. She currently works as a lead AI ML engineer for Nike in Bay Area. She works on developing end-to-end machine learning solutions. She has worked as a senior data scientist at Teradata Corporation, a leading analytics company headquartered in California. Divya earned her MS and PhD in computer science from University of Cincinnati's our computer science program. Her PhD dissertation in the area of graph mining won the Best Dissertation Award in the CS department in 2017. And she also did some work in Children's Hospital on drug discovery using some AI methods, clustering methods. So she has had, and she also worked on a project to predict when a machine on a shop floor is going to fail. So she has had a lot of experience even before she left Cincinnati. Okay, and the other student we have from our computer science program, PhD, Dr. Vineet Joshi. He's working as a software engineer at Google. And despite my asking him what he does, he's not allowed to tell me what he does. So, but he does a lot of important things. That's what comes out from his conversations. Prior to working for Google, he worked on machine learning and engineering roles at Oracle Cloud and the Coles, where he generated recommendations. At Oracle, you had a lead role for some AI groups, so your lead AI role. He completed his master's and PhD from University of Cincinnati. His doctoral dissertation completed in 2015 in the area of anomaly detection in data sets. So these are our alums, and now they are making good impact in industry. Could be there for question or you want to introduce later? Yeah, no, first introduce.
Okay. I'll introduce the third panelist, Dr. Nick Ernest. Nick, raise your hand. So Nick is an undergraduate, got his master's degree here, and then his PhD. I'm not sure he wanted to get all three when he started off.
No.
But then, we made sure that he did, and I don't think he regrets that. Nick is from Liberty Township, not far from here, and his area of expertise is trustworthy AI. It has been a pleasure for me to mentor him and to follow his journey from him being an undergraduate student when he came in, and then looking at how to create very exciting acronyms for Dubin's path. I mean, it started small, but then it really ended up, and then we're going to put him on the spot, and he's going to give us one of them. And then later on, once he graduated, he opened up a startup at his parents' garage called Cybernetics. And he graduated in 2015. He opened up Cybernetics all right away. And then in 2018, around November, December, he sold that to Thales International. He's now the chief architect of Thales Avionics Group. And he's also he convinced Thales to form a branch here in Ohio, Cincinnati. And he's recruited a few of our Bearcat students, and he's growing and doing tremendously well. So a round of applause for Dr. Nick Ernest. You want to start?
Okay, so I'll have some questions first for Divya. So since you've seen a lot of industry and AI applications, you led development of some AI applications there. What are the applications that are making the most impact, AI applications, most impact in industry right now in terms of efficiency, efficacy, effectiveness, new products, new productivity? So what are those AI applications?
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Bhatnagar. So yes, absolutely. AI is making lots of progress, and also it's making an impact in many different areas. To name a few, we have healthcare being the number one, then agriculture, supply chain, customer care, and transportation. To elaborate on a few, we see that in healthcare, AI has a huge potential. It can contribute by the analysis of medical images. It can lead to faster and more accurate diagnosis of diseases. And then a big one would be in drug discovery. There are AI-based techniques such as drug repurposing, which make use of AI to find out, say, genes and proteins which have much more therapeutic value, so that drug companies can target those and reduce the time to market of drugs. So typically the time to market for drugs would be somewhere around 12 to 17 years, and using AI-based techniques, this can be reduced to around 3 to 12 years, which is huge. Then in agriculture, AI is playing a big role as well in improving efficiency. So now we can use, the AI can make use of the data from drones and satellites and analyze those data so that the farmers, they can make data-driven decisions about the crops. They can know in advance that when the crops are going to fail, and plan when to sow seeds, when to do activities such as irrigation, etc. So around like 1950s, there were around 10 million farmers in the US. And now if you see, there are only fewer than 3 million farmers. So a lot of efficiency, improvement, productivity in the agriculture space has come up. And then if you see in supply chain, you see that AI can make a lot of contributions in domains such as inventory management. It can help in forecasting the demand. And also if you see in warehouses that it can help in planning that what will be the size of different packages, where to keep different products in the warehouse so as to make the delivery the fastest. So in Amazon, we all know that they provide this one-day delivery, same-day delivery. So AI helps to optimize that by deciding that where to store different products in the warehouses. So lots of productivity improvements in that areas have come up. And then customer care, the use of AI-based chatbots, we can definitely get quick answers to our questions. Yeah, lots of areas AI can contribute and increase productivity.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, you mentioned precision agriculture. I know 2 of my students, they have started startups, one in here, one in Egypt, for precision agriculture. They are saving a lot of water, a lot of chemical fertilizers, a lot of pesticides. And when they explained to me, the impact was tremendous. They are making in agriculture. Okay, the other question is that you've been familiar with both industry and the research aspect. You work on the drug discovery kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So what aspect of research in science, engineering, technology is being helped by AI? Because if we can speed up the research in these areas, that will help a lot. So what are the ways AI can help speed up research, academic research?
Sure. So one thing common to all academic areas, I would say, is that where AI can contribute is that there is now lots of data available everywhere. And also with the advance of AI infrastructure, analyzing these massive amounts of data sets has become very easy. So AI can be applied to almost many or any interdisciplinary area, and it can contribute to analysis of large data sets. So definitely the bioinformatics domain, the genomics, precision medicine being number one area, I would say, where it can help to analyze the data sets and lead to more faster and accurate diagnosis of diseases. Then in areas such as material science, and it can help in, AI can help to do some simulations, so that AI-assisted simulations, they could help in identifying different types of materials, what are the properties of different materials, so that we can use them, what are much more suited for areas such as in electronic devices and so on. So those simulations are very powerful, which could be used in any area. So other than data analysis, another area would be that now the data can also be collected now. Now AI-based robots and drones, they can be used to collect data from areas, say hard to reach spaces. And now that data can be collected and analyzed as well. So that could be a huge in areas studying, doing research in areas such as studying climate change and say in space exploration. So those will be areas where it can help. And then in definitely now with the upcoming technologies, AI can also contribute towards research areas in areas such as literature, art, music as well. Because now with the creative content generation, AI can contribute towards that as well. So there is a broad range of areas in research where AI can contribute.
Okay, thank you. So so AI is enabling science to move much faster, accelerating the research. There has to be some downsides,
Yes,
both for business, industry, and scientific establishment. So if we take AI tools and go to these areas, there's a lot of fear all around. So what do you think are the downsides of incorporating more and more AI?
sure. So with any new technology that has come so far, be it cell phones or be it the internet or be it even the railroad, any new technology that comes up, there are always some fears and downsides around it. And so the key is that we understand that we should be more aware of what the downsides are, and then just turn them around so that we focus more on the positives and make the full potential uses of these technologies. So among the downsides, to name a few, would be that with the dominance of AI, there are concerns that it can automate many of the repetitive tasks, and it may lead to displacement of some of the jobs force. So I would say that we should see AI more to enhance, we should use more AI more to enhance the jobs versus to displace the jobs. And we should spend efforts in upskilling and also reskilling the task force so that they are able to contribute much more and make use and more understand AI-based tools in a much better way. Then other areas, downsides that I could think of is that there are concerns about bias that comes with the use of AI-based tools. So inherently, when you do training of AI models, there is a potential, if the data is not collected correctly, then there could be a chance of bias being introduced in the models. So in order to avoid that, we should make sure that we are collecting the data which is much more representative of the entire population, and we have rules and regulations in place so that this bias is mitigated. So we need to be aware of that and take steps to mitigate that. Then another downside I see is that that accountability issues, because now that we are using AI to make decisions for us, now AI makes a decision, then who is accountable? Because AI is more for most of the general public and the decision makers, still AI is a black box. So who is accountable for the decisions that AI is making? So we need to have some human backing to take accountability for all the decisions that are being made by AI. Then some downside, another downside I see is that the security issues, the cyber security and the fraud based attacks that can happen. So we need to take measures to mitigate those. Then another thing I can think of is that now there's the AI infrastructure, all the industries, they need to adapt to, in order to invest in AI, they need to have this huge AI infrastructure. And then not all companies, especially the small companies, the small companies, they may not be able to invest huge in these infrastructure, and the AI, the utilization of AI may be restricted to the big companies and the small companies. If they are not able to use AI, then there might be a digital divide that where AI is being used or not being used. And something I can think of is that if we all start using AI so much, then there may be, it may lead to social isolation if we are just all restricted to communicating with our devices so much, everything our devices are going to do for us, then it may lead to just us behaving more like robots, and the lack of creativity, empathy.
Yeah, those are serious issues. Thanks, Divya. So what I'll do is I'll have a couple of few questions for Vineet, and after that we can have audience ask some questions, and then have so okay, whichever way. Yeah. Okay, so the first question for Vineet is, okay, so the context is that I know some people who have startup companies in Bay Area, venture capitalist kind of people. About 2 years, 3 years, 5 years ago, when some small company went and said, I'm going to use AI, people were kind of circumspect. They said, I'm not going to invest in it. What's AI going to do? But then ChatGPT came. And after that, the effect is whenever some companies goes with a proposal and they say, you aren't using AI, are you going to succeed? So that's the difference ChatGPT has made. So with this ChatGPT came like a big bang. Is it really different? Is it going to make much more impact compared to what all the other AI, robotics and vision and machine learning and all the other things made over the last 40 years? Is ChatGPT qualitatively of a different order completely?
Yeah, I do think that it is a step up from the conventional AI. And the difference I find is that the conventional AI is, in some sense, descriptive, inferential, predictive system. What I find the current generation of AI, the generative AI does is it creates new content, and that is in some sense a game changer because it enables many capabilities that were not there in earlier generations. When I started working in the industry, deep learning had started to become the in thing, and for a long time I used to think it's hype, and in some sense it was a bit of hype, but I've seen it mature from kind of a marketing push to something which is solving a lot many real world problems. So in that sense, it is definitely a next step. It's not just a incremental step on conventional AI, it's something new. There are new capabilities being offered because of the new what it can do everywhere, like autonomous driving. And recently, I think about a week ago, I saw an article from Mustafa Suleiman, who is one of the founders of DeepMind. He started a new company, and his vision is that what he calls interactive AI, where a system will act as your personal chief of staff. You give it a task, it will decide how it needs to be done. It'll execute on that and then just tell you it is done. For example, you can ask it to plan it a trip. It'll do what it needs to be done. It'll talk to a human, talk to a web service, do whatever, find best plans for you, the best trips for you, best cost for you, and do it. So that's the kind of capability. Now it looks reasonable to do in some time, which was in the realm of science fiction a few years ago. So in this sense, yes, it is definitely a step up from conventional
So
AI.
in terms of capabilities also, it's a major step up. Okay, so ChatGPT takes us to one level above from what we have been doing so far. Do you see something else of the order of importance of ChatGPT coming up in 5-10 years? Like ChatGPT is large language models are being trained for last 5 years. Nobody heard about them. And then OpenAI comes and announces ChatGPT, and now almost everybody knows about it. Okay, so are there some other things cooking which we should expect in the next 5 to 10 years? That this is a major change. One, you said this DeepMind, Suleiman's company. So he has some very futuristic ideas. What should we expect, which will again jar us that, hey, AI can do this too?
Something actually not too far, and there are already trial runs happening is, so in San Francisco, Waymo has been running driverless taxis. And I believe they started doing in some cities also, maybe somewhere in Arizona, but I'm not very sure about that. But for sure, I know people who have taken those taxis, and if you've seen Total Recall from, I think, 1985, it's that kind of an experience where it's driving pretty well, but there is no driver there. And it takes some time to get comfortable with the idea that the car officially doesn't have a driver. And it seems there are always edge cases, and it's in some areas it's not as successful as you would like it to be, but I think it's a start. And I do see that sometime in the future that might end up being more normal than we are used to. So yeah, that's one thing that, again, maybe 4 years ago I didn't think is going to happen, but now there are trial runs happening. So yeah, that's another thing I'd like to say. It's a game changer because I myself sometimes don't want to drive, but there is no other option other than calling an Uber at the most. But now I think that's going to become norm in maybe a decade or so.
So would you be, you will feel safe in a driverless taxi?
So the two things to go there. One is seeing it being used more often does give a psychological cushion. Secondly, having raw data behind it that actually it is not any worse than human accident rates. So two need to go hand in hand. One, getting psychological familiarity with the idea. And secondly, having raw data behind it that actually it is working well in most scenarios. And in fact, in overwhelming scenarios.
Okay. So one more thing quickly, if you can address. So the companies now, startups are all companies, everybody's trying to adapt more of AI in their operations and businesses everywhere. What are the issues that companies should be concerned about before they say, okay, let me adapt some more AI tools, AI technologies in my operations?
So two things I've seen is challenges in skills and challenging with respect to costs. Skills in the sense that the concept might be good, but taking it to a finished product and launching it and proving business benefits coming out of it, that is a complicated task, because starting from a POC to actually showing it working and attaching dollar values with that, that's a long path. And skills and experience are there, and it's not very easy for companies to get that at the right time, because there is a time to market, and many companies don't have a very long horizon to plan. They would want something in next 2 quarters. So starting from a concept to take it to a point where, yes, you are able to demonstrate a benefit in a horizon that's reasonable. That's one. Secondly, costs. Training these models with large amount of data is a costly affair. If you cannot defend that with a business value over a horizon time, that becomes a problem. So these two risks, costs and the skills gap.
Okay, thanks for the cost. I'll just let Kelly ask some questions of Nick, but I'll just mention one factoid. I don't know, you mentioned the cost. So Microsoft, now when they are training this ChatGPT, how much water was being consumed by them? 5 million cubic meters. And after they are training ChatGPT, how much is being consumed water? 7 million cubic meters. Where is this extra 2 million cubic meters going? To cool down the data centers where ChatGPT is being trained. So that's a cost which we never see. And that's an environmental cost, financial cost, everything. Okay.
Thank you, Raj. So a few questions to my dear friend Nick Ernest. Tell us about Thales Cincinnati.
Yeah.
A little bit about why and how that whole true AI system came about, its importance to Thales and some use cases.
No, certainly. Thank you, Kelly. So the history of my research here, and in no small part due to your lab, Kelly, is a focus on formally verifiable and interpretable AI systems. And colloquially, we can say these are AI systems that are aimed towards certifiability. Now, depending upon the field and application area, there is no current certifying body, but regardless, we are aiming towards being as certifiable as other current software-based control systems. That's been our focus of research for quite some time, and it's no small part why Thales acquired us in late 2018 and agreed to have a permanent presence here in Cincinnati. And in fact, I'll share that in that topic of, let's just say, trustworthy AI, Thales, which I know many of you might not be familiar with. Let me step back 1 second. We're an 80,000 personnel company. We're in 80 plus countries, aerospace, defense, and general technology company. If any of you have a passport or a credit card with the TAP chip on it, we make all that. All the technology in there. We also make a lot of aerospace and defense things. We make a lot of flight controllers on the aircraft systems that you all fly on for a lot of the major manufacturers, and a lot of defense articles as well as cybersecurity. You can essentially compare us as the Lockheed Martin of France. We have under 10,000 people here in the U.S. Primarily, we work with the Army and the Navy, but we work with the other branches as well, although to a little bit of a lesser degree. So that being said, Thales recognizes the University of Cincinnati as a global leader in the field of trustworthy and potentially certifiable AI systems, to the point where they've invested heavily in this. And 100% of the technical staff in my office are Bearcats. And that's not just my bias. Absolutely not, because I get questioned about that every single time I bring that point up. But it's a simple matter of the fact that the type of work and the type of AI that especially our aerospace, but now also other parts of our university focus on, branch out into fields where we aren't just following what MIT does. We aren't just following what Johns Hopkins does. We could do that. We could just lick their boots and eat their crumbs if we wanted to. But instead, we branch out into other areas, and it's global leaders like Dr. Cohen that enable us to do that. So to answer the second part of your question, what it is that we do here in the Cincinnati office, we have this acronym called True AI. What it stands for is trustworthy, understandable, and ethical. It's a large reason why I ended up selling to Thales as compared to some of the American folks that may have been interested in the company. And it's because there's a very heavy focus that stems from just a cultural background there for ensuring that these systems that we deploy can meet the strictest ethical and safety standards. The reason for that is because, especially from the work that we primarily do in my office, we're almost exclusively looking at the DoD. We're looking at unmanned vehicles, and we're looking at AI tools that enhance our operators and our warfighters on the field to make critical decisions, and also, of course, unmanned vehicles, where even if they're not armed, if they make a mistake, can lead to disastrous results. Just like how, if one of your buddies gets in a car accident in I-71, it probably doesn't make national news. If a self-driving car causes a fatal crash somewhere, it makes the news. Why is that? Because AI is made by big companies and big governments approved it. Whereas a bad driver is just a bad driver. We can punish that bad driver in all sorts of ways we want to punish that bad driver. Well, same thing is true in the DoD. If we have a private that makes some silly mistake and something bad happens, we have policies and procedures in place for that. If we have an AI system that leads to an incident that is approved, that is built by a plurality of companies, typically not just one company, a plurality of companies, and then is approved by a plurality of DoD entities, that's now a big issue. So that's the big focus for why we're aiming on these very strict standards here.
Thank you. Another small question, follow up. How did your experience as a student at the University of Cincinnati impact your career?
There's a question. We had this moniker. So I haven't missed a football game, a home football game, except for work travel since 2006. And so a lot of times, I don't know when it started. We have this moniker of boldly Bearcat. I forget when it started, but someone here probably knows. I did not want to stay for my graduate career. Just like our colleague who was joining us remotely earlier, I came to UC because of the co-op program. I toured and toured and toured. I toured that school in Columbus and saw these people that were just like, they were in labs for years and years and going nowhere. And they were talking about their research. And I said, I don't want to be that. So the UC co-op program really drew me to it. And I spend most of my time co-oping up at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. However, due to the personnel that were here, the faculty that were here, I did not want to leave. I realized that the momentum that I can gain from staying here was massive. So when I graduated, literally did the government did the thing where they wrote a number on a piece of paper, folded it over, and slid it across the table to me. They did that cliche thing. And I looked at it and I slid it right back. And so I decided, because of the confidence that was instilled for me by the fact that we are doing something different, and the thing that we are doing different works. You convinced me that it works and we can make it work. That's why I decided to make this startup. It was self-funded. There was no venture capitalist. I had one child and a pregnant wife at the time, and my pregnant wife recently quit her job. So you can imagine the discussions that we may or may not have had at that point in time. And I had multiple employees at some point in time. I took all the loans out that I could. I sold my car to make payroll, but I knew that it would work out in the end because I had the confidence that this technology, this methodology could make a major difference. And that was all because I stayed here at UC. If I went to any other college, this path would not have happened. And I'll just leave it at this, that it's worked out pretty well.
Yes. Now we would like to open for questions to the audience. There's somebody with a mic going around so that, yeah, there's just, yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Nick.
Can you discuss the role of high performance computing in the training and deployment of AI systems? Also, HPC workforce development and how accessibility to HPC systems contributes to AI barriers in the previously mentioned digital divide.
Who do you want to answer this question?
Is it for anyone?
I can.
Yep.
Could you please repeat the question?
I can.
Could you discuss HPC and AI?
I'll go first. So from a defense perspective, that's obviously that's a big topic, and especially because we're talking vast amounts of data. That data has to deal with, obviously, this is not just open source information. So all this cloud infrastructure seems to be the way that a lot of these entities are going. And the massive data centers are continuing to be highly important. I'll argue that that there seems to be a big push for a differentiation between HPC and edge computing, and only using HPC when necessary. But it's massively important, and for a lot of potential AI applications, especially intelligence analysis, new target recognition, things like that. It's going to continue to be a major important thing. Our company is heavily invested in things like quantum computing and things like that, because there's just a massive need for it. A lot of struggles come from there with data centers and secure links to those data centers when it comes to real-time distribution back to the field and stuff like that. But no, HPC is not going away. That's for sure, in my opinion.
No, I don't think HPC is going away anywhere. We are trying to solve bigger and bigger problems. We always need more computing power. Every generation we say, okay, now we have large enough computers, but then people come up with larger problems. I don't think we have seen the end of it right now. I mean, ChatGPT took what, 6 months on about 1,000 GPUs to train. And now people are trying to go to the next versions. I mentioned that cooling down the data centers took 2 million cubic meters of water. So it's that much HPC being used.
And I would like to add as well that so with the online systems, most of they have this pattern that the data keeps coming. For example, when we are doing online shopping, then the data always keeps coming. So it's not like we train the models once and we are done. So the data, we need to keep ingesting the data and keep doing the training, say, in a weekly or at some cadence. So it's not that we are always, these systems are not like always on. So we need to have the capability to use them on an as needed basis. So the cloud infrastructure, then it really helps so that we can, in order to reduce the costs, just use them on an as needed basis, so that we have, say, a week's worth of data, we do the training, and then we just stop using them. And then again, when we need them, then we again use them and stop using them. So that is very useful to reduce the costs.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Thank you first for hosting this panel. It's been really wonderful hearing all of your insights. My question is about the ethical AI, because it's great to hear that you're holding yourselves to the highest standard of ethical AI. My question is, I guess, what concerns do you have about that? Because it seems like every company is developing their own standards, and there's not standards nationally or internationally. And kind of in parallel to this, on the regulatory or watchdog side too, it seems like there's a big gap of what's missing. So I'd love your insights of how we can, just your thoughts on this.
Okay. Yeah. So let me talk to that, and I'll try and be brief. I literally just came from a conference yesterday afternoon when I spoke on this topic. And earlier this month, I was at a conference on that exact topic as well. So it's been a very busy September on that exact topic. To be brief, one of the main complaints, one of the main issues that I think we currently face, let me phrase it that way, is that when it comes to a lot of entities, especially here in the US, but not just the US, also in Europe, when it comes to creating safety standards and guidelines, there are no certification requirements yet, but safety standards and guidelines for AI, there seems to be this habit to bucket all AI methodologies with the same requirements. And so when I was talking before about the types of applications that we do where we hold ourselves to the safest standards, that precludes certain AI applications from my work. I can't replace ChatGPT. I could never make ChatGPT fit the strictest safety standards that I do our other work. I never could, or at least not in my lifetime, I predict. But the way that entities like the Chief Digital Artificial Intelligence Office, or formerly the Joint Artificial Intelligence Center, and a few other of our DoD entities are looking at it, I'll say that they're putting everything under one bucket. AI is AI, and here are the types of tests you can do for AI. And then they preclude some things that we can do to make certain types of AI safer, but they don't fit certain application areas. So I'd say that's a main challenge is really we need like different requirements for different types of applications that have different types of safety standards that need to be met, because some methodologies, not just the one that Dr. Cohen and I happen to focus on, but other ones as well, can adhere to that others can't. But there are some application areas where other AI systems can still be very useful and powerful, but can't adhere to those strict safety standards, but still may be usable. So that'd be my answer to your question. It's a challenge, and it's a governance, it's a policy challenge, much more so, I argue, than it is a technical challenge at this point in time, at least. Oh, yes. There definitely are. In fact, my colleague was just at the FAA conference on this topic as well. NIST, EASA out of Europe. They are, but that's what I was talking about when I say a lot of these entities are kind of going into this tunnel vision mode where AI is AI. AI is not this broad field of science, which it is, I would argue, that could have different requirements for different things. Instead, it seems a lot of places are going under just, here's the requirements for AI. It's kind of like saying, here's the requirements for vehicles that travel on the highway. Motorcycles, cars, trucks, and trucks towing 2 trailers behind them. Maybe they should have different, sort of requirements behind them. Trucks have weigh stations and stuff like that, It doesn't seem to be going that way right now. My main issue is it seems it's nope. AI is AI. All AIs are equal, and here's the best we can do for AI, which isn't true for all types of them. But anyway, no one's ever released anything that is here's the hard standard. So nothing's set in stone right now. It's a very continuing, evolving topic right now, and who knows when the first actual, hard requirement will ever be released by any entity.
Ethical use. You want to say something? No, ethical use. It varies from context to context, from country to country. So now, if you look at the face recognition systems, so I think in China it is used as if kids are walking into school, it takes their face and it marks the attendance. That's acceptable. Most of the cities here, they have CCTV camera here, and in Europe, face recognition system is illegal due to privacy reasons.
I'd like to add that
what areas of US criminal justice system can we tap into AI?
What's the question again?
US justice.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that I did in my PhD dissertation. I studied that how the crimes taking place in San Francisco, they change over time. So I used some unsupervised learning algorithms and figured out that some crimes they were the same over the years, but there were some crimes which were actually located in certain pockets. Only some pockets in the neighborhoods of San Francisco were more prone to some crimes. So yeah, a lot of like predictive analytics based techniques can be used to predict that which areas are more prone to the crimes. So in the criminal justice can make use of this. Actually, yeah, so I live in the San Francisco area, and after this analysis, I was like, I would think twice before going to San Francisco. Okay, let me think about it. Yeah.
I'd like to give a shout out to LexisNexis. I think that they've been applying text mining to this area for quite a bit before this was even known as an ML problem. I think they've been trying to apply ML and basically automate many of the things that would require human intervention earlier. So I think that's a local company almost. I think it was based in Dayton, the last I heard. So yeah, they've been working in this area also.
Does it work?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm a professor of medicine, so I'm not an engineer. So bear with me. So for us, for the lay people, this is a black box, right? As you said, it's a black box. So say, if you go to the extreme, right? So you come to me as a doctor, and doesn't matter what I do, but then say, come to me to the doctor. We have an algorithm that makes the diagnosis, suggested is the therapy, and then I'll go with it, right? So is it the problem that for the user, to the end user, does not understand the basic tenet of the technology? Because say now, if you come to me, I will explain in layman terms the disease that you have and what the therapy is. So is that a problem, number one? Number two, so that is one. And then to the extreme, say, since it seems that the defense or there used to be the Ministry of War, but now it's defense. So will we have like a black box for the layman that is a general, taking decisions in the field? And who controls that? Which is always the same question, right? So you guys are the ones that design it. I don't know what you do. How do you approach that?
I can take that. So that's a valid concern. When as things are moving into more complex models, we move into what's conventionally called a black box model. And the definition of that is that it's difficult to explain as is why something happened compared to a simpler model where you have coefficients that you can interpret in human understandable terms and understand, okay, what's happening here. So, in some sense, a simple model is a summary of world. And that summary gets kind of muddled if you have a black box model because it's a lot going on. You cannot interpret in human terms what's going on. And with that, that's a problem that we also find in applying these black box model to business decisions, because ultimately, no matter how much of data science you apply, some human has to make a decision, and he has to understand, he or she has to understand why this is being recommended. Does it make any sense? Can you explain it? So there has been a drive towards explainable AI. And the intent there is that even though a simple model might not be as accurate as a black box model, we want to be able to explain what's happening there in human terms. And there are various ways to do it, not very complete, but at least they give some insight into what's happening here. And that's been an ask even from business leaders, like if you have a prediction, at least try to give an intuition into behind what's happening there. And I guess I've seen many platforms where even though there is a system in place that auto trains some model and gives you answers, it also gives you an explainability package on top of that tries to give you an intuition about what are the interactions that are giving rise to this, what is important in this input data set, what is noise, what you can pay attention to and what you should not pay attention to as far as understanding what is went into training the model is concerned.
If I can,
Yep.
thank you. If I can add, listen, if we had 60 people on this panel, you would get 60 different answers to that question. When I said AI is an umbrella term, it really is. And I have a feeling that each of us up here are talking about different methodologies of artificial intelligence. My answer to your question is I would never give a black box AI model to anyone for a DoD application. Every application I give would be a white box AI model that has been formally verified to adhere to every safety requirement that has been delivered to us by the customer. Every single decision it makes would be fully interpretable, and we would collaborate that with subject matter experts to make sure that we adhere to every piece of doctrine that they would want it to do so. So we would never deliver black box system in a DoD setting under those terms. It would absolutely be a transparent AI model using a different sort of approach. Now, to put an asterisk on that, in an earlier question, I said I never replaced ChatGPT. That's my weakness. I can't replace ChatGPT. I can't. That's a black box and it's powerful, and it's kind of it's a black box because it is powerful to the scale that it is at. So the types of applications that we can create these white box, if you will, formally verified AI systems are different than what you could with some other types of AI methodologies from a scalability standpoint. So for a lot of our critical defense applications, we are not interested in providing AI systems at this point in time that are black box and can't be formally verified.
And I would like to add to that as well. So as a patient, I know that whenever new drugs are developed and introduced to the market, there are always clinical trials associated with them. But now, what about these AI-based models that are coming up? Can we have some clinical trials associated with them also, so that we can say that in experiments, when this type of methodology was used, what was the success rate? And that would give me assurance as a patient that to have developed some kind of trust in my doctor that this AI-based models recommendation that is being given to me has been thoroughly tested before in clinical trials and been proved to be efficacious statistically significantly.
I can cite one example which may be relevant. So about 15 years ago, IBM had this program Watson, which defeated the two champions of Jeopardy. Okay, so Watson knew everything. And where did IBM go after that? They said, okay, we'll take this system that we have, we'll put all cancer-related knowledge, put it into the system and make this an expert on cancer. It can answer every question on that. And some insurance companies bought that system, they developed it. If you have YouTube videos, you can go watch that Watson as a cancer expert. Then they put it in the group of doctors when they were discussing a patient. And what happened is it can give suggestions, but it cannot explain why it's giving those suggestions. And most of the experience is that doctors just ignored what this Watson cancer system was saying. And it's so bad. About 4 months ago, IBM has put the whole Watson branch of their system for sale. They are selling the whole. So it's a good technology, but it's not acceptable yet.
Jay, you had a question? Okay. Yes.
Can you hear me, folks? Okay. Good afternoon, folks. Thank you for being here. Since this past November, every 2 or 3 weeks, I come across something that blows my mind. Stuff that I look at and I'm like, that was science fiction. It's science now. But that's me as a layperson on this side of the table. So part A of my question is, are there things that you as experts look at or have looked at in the past few months and gone, whoa, that blows my mind? Part B is, are there things that you think of and go, yeah, AI has been able to do all this, but it would really blow my mind if it could do all of this? So A, has your mind been blown? And B, are there things that will blow your mind, but very likely not? Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. This past year has been exceptional in all these developments. Yeah, definitely all these are there. But what I think that in the future would be that like more powerful chatbots coming up, which the general population can use, which not only answer our questions, but they are able to do even more complex things, like do reservations like end to end, and solve our problems end to end. So that is something that I vision that in the future. That's the future.
Did you have a ChatGPT generated poem? Actually, I heard that poem.
Yeah.
That blew my mind.
Yeah, so that was something that blew my mind was that when I was just before coming here, I just typed in ChatGPT that give me a poem on future of AI, and that gave me a very beautiful 10 paragraph poem. So the creative power of AI, that completely blows my mind. That poem looked like it has been developed by a professional creative person, and it was a big poem, but I got just one paragraph. I wrote it down so that I could read it to you guys. It's really mind blowing. So I'll just read it. Let us tread carefully as we shape AI's way. With responsibility, we will avoid dismay. Harnessing its brilliance, a brighter future will essay, where man and machine harmoniously sway. So let us embrace AI with a mind that is keen, for in its possibilities, a new world can be seen. Yeah. It was a beautiful 10 paragraph words. Yeah.
No, I'll just add to that real quick. I mean, yeah, I'll ditto my compatriots' remarks. Besides ChatGPT, there's things like Llama, which you can, just download and run on your own machine and not have to share all your information necessarily with OpenAI. And there's, a lot of these things out there. In recent conferences, God, the number of startups that are just doing LLMs, large language models, which ChatGPT is. No, it's going to change things. A lot of these conferences, people are talking about personal email assistants. The day when a human written email, or at least 100% written email, comes your way, that might have an expiration date on it, at least for the majority of the emails you get. So no, it's been boggling. So as far as developments, I think the big focus has been industry-led and governments following. From a defense perspective, I think there's still a lot of work we need to do before a lot of this is useful up to that standard of security that we want from it. But no, it's been a very, very interesting year.
Well, one thing on which when I read it, I said, wow. Okay, so that was, I don't know, people from biological sciences would know protein engineering. So the human evolution or any creature, the evolution process, it goes over hundreds of years, thousands of years, and then proteins do change. And then they can adapt to different environments, different diseases, different things. So protein engineering aided by AI can go through that evolution process of thousands of years and come up with proteins that will tackle a particular disease, particular condition. So that's where I read that. I said, wow, once this comes, that will be game changing.
All right. You guys hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is really great. I'm having a great time. So a great way to spend my Friday afternoon, to be honest. So my question's more about cybersecurity. In full disclosure, I've been in the business for 20 years, so I think about it a lot. So what is being done or what can be done to ensure that AI and everything associated with it is not weaponized against us from a cybersecurity perspective. That's like part one. And part two is, if that does happen, is there like a kill switch to turn it off, or what could be a mechanism to slow down that assault?
Sure. I'll talk about it again just from my angle. You know, with the increasing need of these denied comms, we don't want to talk to these systems unless we need to, because we're working in these stealthy areas. That increase in autonomy kind of naturally addresses some cybersecurity issues, to the point where we're really looking at problems that affect manned platforms in the same way. You know, false targets, you know, erroneous data that's being submitted to a sensor that would trick a manned platform in the exact same way. It doesn't get rid of the problem, but that addresses it more from a classical standpoint of cybersecurity. When it comes to, let's say, an issue where we're having an AI system that actually is directly being manipulated. Let's say there's an adversarial attack, and that is absolutely a thing that is possible in some applications. Not just possible, like it's proven that it's easy in a lot of cases. That's why human on the loop is so important. And you know, our focus when I go to any event, human on the loop is definitely a focus. It's a focus of our company. So that answer, basically, I'm answering your question of, is there a kill switch? Yes, we want a human on the loop at all times, if possible, to be able to make sure that if these systems have any sort of issue along those lines, we just kill them. And if it's not possible, then obviously that limits the types of tasks that we're going to allow them to do at this point in time. But cybersecurity is a topic that goes even beyond AI by far in the you know, the warfare theater of against a near peer adversary. So it's a pretty broad topic. But that's my answer to your question. Is the policy at this point in time definitely remains to be that a human on the loop, such that these systems can be deactivated at any point.
Yeah, I agree with Nick here that definitely some human presence is definitely required, that in businesses, when they develop their AI-based pipelines, so that they deploy their models to push their services, provide their services to their customers, they should always be a human. So it's not completely autonomous, like AI enabled, that it takes the data, trains itself, and then just derives the results, and then just pushes them out there. There should be always whenever there's a new model, there should always be a human element present, so that all the training and everything has happened. A human goes over the results and then make sure everything looks correct, and then only decides that this is okay to push for consumption by the consumers and customers. So definitely that is important. And then developing authentication measures, having them a required like regulation in the businesses. It's definitely a must. Like, we cannot go without them. And these things need to be enforced, so that on a business level, those policies, they need to be checked whenever we are delivering whenever we have any deliverables. Yes.
I'd like to add that so typically when we develop a large complex system, we have some automation in place to make sure that it's consistent and retains its integrity over time. You have unit tests, you have integration tests. I guess the next phase that would be that when deploy AI model, have some span of expected behavior and immediately flag if anything is beyond what you expected. Breaking down a complex cybersecurity problem into individual components that might be separately misbehaving would be a part of it. You might not capture the end-to-end behavior because that's what emergent behavior is. Individually things look fine, but overall something is off. But I believe a lot of that can be controlled by including these checks and balances as a part of an AI development process itself.
You know, I can add one last thing. There's a lot of work to add AI for cybersecurity for both detection and mitigation. So there's a lot of work there to do as well.
Happy to report that recently we've been awarded a project from the Department of Homeland Security on how to make airports more cyber secure. What we have is a company that develops and cyber secure detection and isolation system using chaos theory. They're very effective. They've been operationally deployed. So what we're doing here at the University of Cincinnati is developing a digital decisioning twin. We're replicating the recorded network of operations in the airport, bringing that over here. And then the red team is going to go through the last 10 years of cyber attacks and randomly hit it. The blue team, equipped with the cyber secure software, is going to detect as soon as possible and then isolate that area of the network that's been hit. And they do that quite well. Now comes our part. What is the human? And how is the human going to be assisted by AI for the decision-making based on situational awareness? How bad is it? What has happened? And then how do I recover functionality in time and in which priority? So do I have assets in the air? First priority, lives of people. And then we go down the chain to say, okay, discomfort to passengers, delay in baggage, things like that. And so we come up with a plan of action. What is the policy? Today, we do not have a good policy of what to do and how to recover. And so that is what we're going to develop here. So the AI looks into permutations and combinations developed for that specific situation. It's very difficult to come up with a cookbook that says if this happens or you lose functionality here, this is what you need to do. We don't have that cookbook. But in real time, we feel that if we know where we are hit, the AI explores the solution space and then comes up with a approach on how to recover. And that's an 18-month program. We go all the way from what has happened as part of cyber attacks in the last 10 years to futuristic nightmare scenarios, like 40,000 box cutters using the 9/11 paradigm, okay, which is very, very scary. But the idea is, how do we use AI together with humans to address cyber attacks on an important, crucial network?
Art and science together, because like you said, art and science together. Cool, thank you.
Yes.
Just expanding on the black box general. So you are not interested in black boxes, obviously, and we feels like actually sounds like we want to have white boxes out there. Are you scared of the day when your adversary, well, and you know, white boxes are going to be inferior model, right? Because we talked about, like, at least at this point, the more complicated it gets, you're not going to be able to explain it. And are you scared of the day your adversary is going to put black boxes that are superior out there and your dilemma?
That's a good question. I'm going to add a few points, and I'd love my colleagues to chime in as well. So one point to make clear, when it comes to the types of models, it's not necessarily an inferior model. Both models have the same performance ceiling. It's what types of applications can you create a model for that are white boxes. So for the same application area, we'll hit the same performance ceiling. Now, that being said, of course, the enemy could just, I'm just being facetious here to an extent, but let's just say we go to Chat GPT version 20 and say, hey, make me a battle plan that'll win this engagement. And it's pretty good at it. It's not risk adverse. It breaks all the laws, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's a concern. That's not a concern. That's just my concern. That's an assumption, in fact, that our DoD has. We assume that our next near peer adversaries will do that. They will not follow the same rules that we will follow, and they will use AI systems in ways that we would not. I wouldn't say we're fearful of it. It's more so we're aware of it, and we have to build up strengths to be able to deal with that fact. Because just like with other conflicts in the not too distant past, yeah, international law might go right out the window pretty quick there. So no, we definitely presume that they will.
And I would believe that it would also depend upon the domain to domain. Like in a domain like defense, definitely we need to have more control. But in a domain like, if we are, say, just want to use a model for, say, recommendation of movies in the entertainment space, see no harm in using the black box models in there. So it will depend upon the domain we are working on.
I'm a bit more gung-ho on black box models, and largely because I think that whether you want to go black box or not depends on what is the cost of failure. If you make a bad decision, what's the worst that can happen? If that's a lot, then you need to be much more conservative. Many situations are not that critical. For example, you want to put one of the two recommendations up on a page. You A/B test the heck out of that. Whichever works better is fine. If you make a mistake, you lose a few dollars, then that's the worst that can happen. But overall, your A/B testing has suggested that your black box model is good, and that's good enough for this scenario. Whereas if you make a decision where human life is concerned, and if things go bad, there's nothing that can mitigate for that, then you need to be really sure. That means you also need to be able to explain to humans. So it depends on where you are. Some situations, A/B testing is good. Sorry, black box models are good. In some situations, you want human to be on the same page with you, which means that human has to understand and be on like support the decision you want to make out of an automated system. So I guess both have their spaces. Depends on what the cost of failure is. Whom do you need to explain the failures to? That's it.
Well, that is a wonderful place to end. I like the image of a white box because you're all in a white box with lots of humans doing lots of interactions together. Please join me in thanking our panelists and our moderators for such a wonderful conversation. We certainly appreciate all of those who are in presence with us here at Digital Futures, as well as those online. For those of you who are in the room, there is a reception where you can meet and greet the panelists and our moderators right outside the door here. So please enjoy that time with them. But otherwise, I wish you all a good and a wonderful weekend, and hopefully one with a Bearcats victory tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you.